The political big three of the top political stories. Everyone's talking about it, so let's get right to it, shall we? The Republican Party launches a midterm campaign ad. It goes hard at Democrats using the term unhinged, but is that a buzzword that could backfire? In New York, a stunning victory for a newcomer who calls herself a Democratic socialist. Some conservatives only heard the socialist part. Now they're seeing red. And Peter Strzok got in trouble for snarky text about Donald Trump. What will the FBI agent have to say for himself on Capitol Hill today? So let's talk. Joining now, political commentator and talk radio host Ben Kissel and conservative commentator Carrie Sheffield, also the national editor for Accuracy in Media. Welcome to both of you. Okay, so Thanks. The RNC has released this new campaign ad attacking the Democrats, and I just want to play it before we discuss. Let's enjoy together.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
What's Uncle Tom but for white women who disappoint other white women?
One way you get rid of Trump is a crashing economy, so please bring on the recession.
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Wow. Carrie?
Yeah. So
wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a very dramatic ad, and it really, I think, encapsulates a lot of the troubling rhetoric that we see coming from the left. I'm personally someone who would love to see everyone across the board just chill out, tone it down. But I think the irony here is that the left is the side that claims to be the side of tolerance, the side of inclusion, the side of enlightenment, but the behavior is suggesting otherwise. So if they want to win,
but they're not advocating
I just don't
going
think this
out
is the way to
burn
do it.
Cars.
We have Maxine Waters, a sitting member of Congress, basically calling to whip up mobs and do mob activity against members of the Trump administration. And you had Steve Scalise, who there was an assassination attempt on his very life. I mean, he was hospitalized. I mean, that man could have been murdered, and he was explicitly targeted because he was a Republican. The man who shot him went to the baseball field and said, "Where are the Republicans practicing?" That's where he went. So this is not just games.
No, it's not just games. But Maxine Waters, you know, actually she's hit back in light of this new ad and in light of conservative claims that she actually was pushing people to violent actions. This is what she just said in her defense. Let's listen.
Let me just say that I think every reasonable person have concluded that the President of the United States of America has advocated violence, he has been divisive, and he has been the one that has caused what we see happening today.
Okay, so Ben, it's tit for tat, right? Maxine Waters is not backing down. She's blaming Donald Trump for some of the violent protests taking place in the country.
Well, absolutely. I mean, everything is sort of a mirror of Donald Trump. This is the tone that he set when he became president of the United States. It's the tone that he set when he was running to become president of the United States in 2016. If being appalled by the erosion of our First Amendment rights, when Donald Trump talks about football players taking a knee, calling them SOBs, if being appalled at 2,400 kids being held in cages at the border, if being appalled that we now have a nation that's about to go through a trade war, if being appalled that we are now at around 504 police shootings just this year alone, well, hey, call the Democratic Party unhinged all you want, but I think those are pretty good reasons to be upset.
You know, Carrie, I just had the thought that, you know, the Democrats, you know, never really have a clear message. They really don't, which is part of their big problem. But an ad like this could actually galvanize Democrats, get them to the polls. Do you think that might happen?
Look, best case scenario, if it would galvanize Democrats, it would galvanize them maybe to have a wake-up call and look at themselves in the mirror and say, look, even, and I agree that some of the rhetoric coming from... Well, I mean, look, I agree. The rhetoric that came out of the then candidate Trump's campaign, there was some troubling rhetoric, and I would like to see him tone it down to 100%. But the thing is, Maxine Waters' response is basically saying, well, he started it, and therefore this is the antithesis of Martin Luther King's message, which he said, you know, violence begets violence. You don't respond to violence with more violence if you want to lower the temperature.
I didn't hear Maxine Waters specifically say go out and punch somebody in the face or set cars on fires. I think she wants people to confront Trump administrated officials when they go into restaurants or in public, but not carry out violence against them.
Well, so when she said, I want mobs to be gathering around people and screaming at them, and she literally said push back. So are you speaking metaphorically or are you speaking physically about the phrase pushback? She used that phrase. So you have to be very careful, because I think there are some people who will take her literally and they will start pushing and shoving and getting physical. We saw this happen in Berkeley, the Berkeley campus, where there were riots. There were 5 people who were physically injured by leftists who could not tolerate the thought of freedom of speech. You had a professor as well who was sponsoring Charles Murray, who was put in the hospital. She was physically, her arm, I mean, this is, again, this is not hypothetical. This is real violence being committed against conservatives.
Right, and Donald Trump's rhetoric is now real policy that is damaging this country's morality. It is hurting this country emotionally, and quite frankly, he's acting in very un-American ways when it comes to specifically the border crisis and a series of other things. People talk about, first of all, violence by either side is horrible, but the Democratic Party or people on the left are seeing what's happening. They're seeing what happened with the Masterpiece Cake Shop decision by the Supreme Court, and really they're just following that cue to say, hey, all right, if you want to play in a world where we can kick you out of our business because we don't agree with your political beliefs or sexual orientation, well, then we're going to have what we had this past weekend with Sarah Huckabee Sanders and Kirsten Nielsen, who was ironically enough eating at a Mexican restaurant because evidently she does like the cuisine.
No, that's actually not what the Supreme Court ruling was. And to the second story, Carol, just as far as the direction of the Democratic Party, the victory of this candidate, this 28-year-old candidate in the Bronx, I love to see young people getting involved. But the fact that she is turning even further left is going to drive a further wedge in this country. And the Democratic Party, if they want to win, they should look at the Bill Clinton playbook, which was to move the party more to the center. That's how they got out of the wilderness after Jimmy Carter. And this candidate in the Bronx, I don't think she's going to do that.
I don't think that they should.
But we don't really know what's going to happen because politics is so hard to predict, because I heard lots of stuff like that about the Republican Party when Mr. Trump ran and he won. So,
yeah.
And Hillary Clinton did lose, and you could argue she's a centrist, right? And Bernie Sanders was awfully popular. So who knows?
Well, actually,
well,
a lot of conservatives didn't like Trump because they said he wasn't conservative enough. And the reason he won is because he had a populist message that was restricting free trade. So in a sense, Trump actually moved the Republican Party.
Right. Okay, I do have to end it there. I wish I could go on because I love talking about this stuff. Ben Kissel, Carrie Sheffield, many, many thanks.